So your field education liaisons for this semester are Dr. Bolden, Professor Yates, and Dr. Jones. And so if you were not signed up for one of those classes, please make sure you see me after class. The Professor Yates, her class will begin on September 11th. This weekend is a holiday. And so we want to make sure that those who are in her class know that she will begin on September 11th. For Dr. Bolden, Dr. Jones' class has already begun of this semester. In the chat, just put down who's your professor of during this time period. In the chat, just take a moment and type in the professor who you'll be partnering with over the semester. Take a moment and place that individual in the chat so I can see who we have. Professor Yates, we have her. Dr. Jones, all right. Okay. Anyone from Dr. Bolden's class in the house? Okay. Okay, Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones. So we have 3 classes. You're able to take a class on a Monday, a Wednesday, or a Saturday. It's very important that you know who your team members are. And so as you begin this process, we want you to understand that if you want to go far, you want to go fast, do things by yourself. But if you want to have impact, you want to utilize all your team members. Your team members are your classmates, your professors, your field education liaison, and your field agency instructor. It's very important that you connect with your field agency instructor as well as your field education liaison. And your field education liaisons are Dr. Bolden, Professor Yates, and Dr. Jones. We're here to support you in that process. I also have a different title. I am also the field director. So as the field director, I handle any agency issues. If it's classwork, you go to your field education liaison. But if the issue with the agency, I will assist you in that process. Let's say that your field education liaison, your agency, your supervisor, they leave. You would tell myself and your field education liaison. But if any changes in your field placement, please let me know in that process. So we want to make sure that you understand that we want you all to have impact and not just complete this year. We want you to have impact in that process. And so as we begin our time together, there are things that you should expect from Phil. In the chat or come off your mic, what do you hope to gain from this field placement as you begin your time here this academic year? What do you hope to gain? What do you hope to gain this semester? Anyone? There are no wrong answers.
Well, I'm hoping to, I guess, pretty much get an idea of, even though the intern I'm going to be with, I kind of already work with children within the same. Well, not really. So no, I'm actually hoping to get an idea if that is the group I want to work with.
Okay. So having a better understanding of what population you want to work with. Okay. So that's what you want to gain from this semester. Okay. All right. So working with different populations, you've been exposed to what you feel you may be good at. Okay. Thank you. Because sometimes we may say we don't want to work with a population, but when we work with them, we have an aha moment. Someone says hands-on experience. Very important. You're able to engage, assess, and do intakes. Apply all that you have learned this 3-4 years that you've had at Coppin State University. Anyone else? What do you hope to gain from your field placement? Applying theories in their process. Someone tell me a theory that they love to utilize. Any theory. You can put in the chat. You can put it, come off your mic. Because theories are important. Because you will be assessed on your ability to apply and utilize different theoretical frameworks. You've had human behavior science and environment, social environment. And so there are several theories, Piaget, Erickson, Maslow hierarchy of needs. And so it's very important to utilize those theories in that process. So in the field placement, you will have opportunity to engage with clients, families, groups, and communities. During that time period, you will do assessments, you may do intakes, you may carry cases, but you will partner with individuals to aid you in your journey as you move forward. And so, you have any questions? Any questions thus far? And so, if you're not speaking, can you please turn your mic on mute for us? If you're not speaking, turn your mic on mute for us. We thank you in that process. And so, in your Methods 1 course, like what someone stated, there are several skills you learn: interviewing skills, engagement skills that you will apply at your field placement, and you will be assessed. Things you do well and things you got to work on. On a scale of 1 to 5, how do you feel about feedback? 1 being, I don't want feedback, and 5 being, I'm up to I'm up to feedback so I can grow. On a scale of 1 to 5, place in the chat, how do you feel? So we got some 5s. Okay, anyone else? How do you feel about feedback? Feedback. You will get feedback from your field agency instructor as well as your field education liaison. How do you feel about feedback? So we got 1, 5. Anyone else? How do you feel about feedback? 4. Okay, anyone else? How do you feel about feedback? Someone says it's necessary to grow. It's pivotal. And I know sometimes some people may be a little anxious or a little unaware about feedback because it's about the tone. But understand that your field agency instructors, as well as your field agency, the workers and your education liaisons, your professors, we will have your best interest at heart. But we will respect you. And if you ever feel disrespected, be authentic. But you will get feedback in that process. Your classmates say it's how it's delivered in that process. And so delivery is important because communication, 70% of the message of communication is how it's stated in that process. And so prepare to learn, prepare to apply, prepare to get feedback as you move forward in your field placement. We want everyone to grow. We want to stretch you as you move forward in that process. And so here are some questions that I want you all to answer. What do you expect from your professor or your field education liaison? This is the individual in the classroom. What do you expect? In the chat, or you can come off your mic. What do you expect from Professor Yates, Dr. Bolden, and Dr. Jones? We are your field education liaisons. What do you expect from us? Support, guidance. Okay. So spaces where you feel heard in that process. And so it's very important that you make an investment in yourself. This is one of the textbooks that you will need. There's only one textbook for the course, but it's very important that you spend time in this textbook because it's like a roadmap. It talks about the first day on the job, the growth process, and the things you have to look forward to as you are at your field placement. And so as your field education liaison, supportive staff, we're here to make sure that you grow. We're going to challenge you in a respectful manner. Someone said that explain how the field is related to academic knowledge. Okay, so good question. So academic knowledge over the past 3 to 4 years, you learn theories. One theory is social learning theory. And that theory talks about the fact that when you observe certain things, some people may do them, a product of their environment. They learn different things, roles they have for individuals. And so I've worked with family members and individuals. For example, learned behavior is something that your clients may have. Not all the clients, but some of the clients. And so it's very important that you understand that theories can be applied to the day-to-day life of individuals. For example, I had a client who was on my caseload. I did child welfare. And on my caseload, they were saying that it was issues because the young lady did not go to prenatal appointments. And so when I engaged with her, I was authentic. I was not judgmental. I did reflections. I asked open-ended questions, closed-ended questions. And she felt comfortable telling me that as a child, she was told that if you go to prenatal appointments, you're getting your hopes up high because you may have a miscarriage. And so this client was told a message. She learned certain behaviors. So social learning theory can apply to this case because this case outlined how different things are taught and learned and are demonstrated with our clients. Not all of our clients, but just some of our clients that we work with. And so we have person and environment theoretical framework. We also have Erickson, the stages of development, lifespan. So all those different things apply to the types of population that you work with. And so the theories, the policies, healthcare policies, we have cases where a young man may end up in juvenile detention because he may have taken or stole some insulin for his grandmother. But policy, if we had healthcare for everybody, would he be in the system? And so that's how the academic knowledge can be applied to the day-to-day life of individuals. So hopefully, LaShawn, I'll answer your question. But the theoretical frameworks, the engagement, all those can be applied to the day-to-day life of a social worker in that process. The book is on the syllabus. And so if you are in one of our classes for Dr. Bolden, it should be uploaded to the Blackboard. Everything should be uploaded to Blackboard. And so if not, your professor has access to it. And so the syllabus is on Blackboard in that process. So the book is on the syllabus. And so it will tell you the author of the book. You can rent it or you can purchase it. I see a hand up, Ms. Jane.
Yes, Dr. Bowden said you will talk more about the book because there will be a change in the book that was in the syllabus, if I understood him right.
Okay, yeah. So on the syllabus, there were 2 books. There's only 1 book now. And so Dr. Bowden has the updated syllabus. I'll send to him after our meeting again. But there's only 1 book for our class. It is entitled A Field Guide for Social Work Practice. I can also put in the chat too before we leave. But the book has been updated on the syllabus. We had 2 books initially, now we only have 1. Okay?
Thank you.
And that book, you have it the entire semester. So invest in it. It can aid you in the process. So thank you for that question. Any other questions about the book or syllabus? And I'll get to the different documentation in a minute. But any questions about the book? Any other questions we have? All right. So your field agency instructor, you're supposed to meet with them at least 1 hour a week. Many of you will meet with them on a regular basis, but a minimum of 1 hour a week of supervision where you're guided, where you able to ask questions, where you get your assigned task, where you're given feedback in that process. So a minimum of 1 hour a week. But we know that on a regular basis, you will have support for you as the field agency that you're a part of. And so the field agency instructor has to sign off on your timesheets, has to give feedback on your process recordings, and has to sit down with you and complete a learning contract. The learning contract are activities that you will perform at your place that you will complete your internship at. And so it's very important that you understand the different roles of the field education liaison, the field agency instructor, and the intern, who are yourselves. What can go wrong at the field placement? Someone, come off your microphone at this time. We don't want to put in the chat. What could go wrong? Anyone who we haven't heard from yet. What could go wrong? Let's come off your microphone and let us and talk to us. What could go wrong at your field placement?
It could be unorganized.
So I'm hearing you saying that the agency may be unorganized.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yes. And that's very that's a very honest critique. And so as a student, you're going to see some various things. Like you're going to see different things like done differently. And so it's very important that as a student you observe of what to do when you become a social worker. Unprofessional. Someone give me an example of what could be something that's unprofessional besides dress. We know dress is very important. We know that each of you will wear semi-professional clothing on your job, but at your field placement. Someone give me an example of something that's unprofessional. Anyone? Give me an example of what could be unprofessional.
Language.
Yes, language. Using slang. People may think that because of your age group, you can talk anyway to your clients. It's very important that we use English when speaking to our clients, unless you have a different language, a dialect. But slang is not appropriate in the workplace. Yes, I see Butler. I see your hand, Butler. You on mute?
Hi,
Okay.
hello. I was gonna say harassment.
Yes.
Harassment or sexual harassment.
Yes, it's inappropriate. And so hopefully during orientation at your job, different placements at your jobs, there's a sexual harassment training you go through. And then there's people you go to. If you feel like you're being harassed, speak to your supervisor, HR department, as well as your field education liaison, because no one should feel harassed on the job in that process. So thank you. Jane.
I wanted to, it's a different from the environment. Can you do a psychosocial assessment and let the clinical social worker diagnose, or we cannot do that?
So an assessment?
Like the psychosocial psychiatric assessment?
So psychosocial assessment, it depends on what type of assessment it is. Like many times as a base level, bachelor level, psychosocials are generally, go ahead. Yes. So psychosocials.
I mean, my job, I work.
Go ahead.
I can hear you.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, you wasn't finished?
I was saying, because as a substance abuse, we do psychosocial and we diagnose. What about the intern for social work? Can you do a psychosocial and let the clinical social worker diagnose, or how do we go about that?
Okay. So a psychosocial on a bachelor level is you just getting a history of the family.
Okay.
You're not doing a diagnosis. You're not diagnosing with bipolar depression. So on a bachelor level, we're not doing diagnosis, but we can assess the family. We can see who's in the household. We can talk about the medical history. We can talk about the strengths, the areas of growth, the needs. And so a psychosocial that gives a history assessment of the family, that's fine. But we're not doing diagnoses. We're not giving out medication. As an intern, if someone asks you to give out medication, please contact my office as soon as possible. We don't give out medication. We don't give out diagnosis on a bachelor level. Now, yes, so your supervisors can sign off on anything. They can do what they want to do. But as a student, we're not diagnosing any type of mental health disorder, and we're not prescribing or handing out medication. You may be at a group home setting, maybe work with mental health, but we are not handing out medication. And if that's an issue, please let us know. And before we move, go ahead.
No, thank you. You answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. No problem. No problem. And so any other questions? We see a hand raised. Any other questions? All right. If not, but it's very important that we are aware of what could go wrong in that process, and we're planning as we move forward. So as a student, we know that you are scholars. So you're going to look at your syllabus. You're going to make sure that assignments will be completed prior to the due date, because things happen. The power may go out. Your computer may crash. So you're going to do things ahead of time. Many of you taking full loads. Some of you are working. Some of full time as well. And then some of you have other responsibilities. So it's very important to look across your syllabi, so to make sure that things are completed in a timely manner. And I want to make emphasis on this. If there's a change with your field agency instructor, you get a new one, should you let the school know? Should we know about it?
Yes.
It's very important. It's very important that you communicate that if change occur. If someone leaves, someone gets fired, please let us know so we can support you. We do not want you in the agency where you don't feel like you have somebody to talk to and to give feedback in that process. And communication. If you have questions, you have concerns, we will do site visits. Some will be virtual. Some will be on in person. But you have to communicate to your field education liaison and your field agency instructor. If we don't know what's going on, we cannot help you. It's very important you understand that we have to know what's going on so we can support you in this process. It's very important. Over the semester, over the 2 semesters for the fall and spring semester, each student, how many did I say? Every student has to complete a minimum of 480 hours. So everybody come off your microphone, and I want you to just yell out 480. Just yell it out, everybody. I need to hear it. I need to hear 480. I don't hear it yet.
480.
480.
480. 480. 480 hours has to be completed by the end of the year. It's very important that you understand that number. 240 for the fall, 240 for the spring. And you can't stock up hours for the fall and bring them to the spring, to the spring semester. Your 240 hours for the fall. If you do more, you have more. If you do less, you won't move to the second part of field. It's very important that you do 240 for the fall and 240 for the spring. And that equates to a minimum of 16 hours a week. It could be 2 8s, 4 4s, but a minimum of 16 hours a week has to be completed so that you can have your hours. How many people plan on going to grad school in a couple years? Anybody plan on going to grad school? You put in the chat. Yes, no. Some of you may be going to work. Some are saying yes, thumbs up. Okay. And so CSWE says 400. But some schools, when they want to take you into their university, they want you to have like 460, 480, 470. So we want to make sure that if you want to go to grad school, that you have the hours and no one will question you about that. So that was put in place prior to my arrival. And so all our students had to complete this academic year a total of 480 hours as we move forward. And so as we look at professional behaviors, these are some areas in which you will demonstrate. Many of you demonstrated already, but it's very important that you demonstrate those different behaviors as you move forward. If you have not had the writing course, it's very important that if that's a strength, because you have to do case notes, treatment plans, coming on time. If you said you're going to be there at 10 a.m., you should arrive maybe about 9:55. If you have a meeting with a client at 12 and your car breaks down at 12, what should we do? If you have an appointment at 12, but then your car break down, what should we do? Did someone put something in the chat? Or you can come out loud and say it. What should we do?
Call the supervisor.
Call supervisor. Call the client. Communicate. Don't just not show up. And we don't know what's going on in that process. It's very important that you communicate. And if you have a question about what's expected of you, if you don't ask that question, we won't know. And so we want to make sure that you are aware of what's expected of you and you're going to demonstrate respect to your classmates, to your clients, and your colleagues. And you utilize those code of ethics that we've talked about here at Coppin State University in that process. It's very important. And so as your field education liaison, we're going to look at your timesheets. Your timesheets provide a insight on what you're doing, how things are going, and how we can support you in that process. And so we're going to encourage you to make sure that timesheets are submitted every month. We don't want November to come around and you say, Dr. Jones, I only have X number of hours and I need 240. We should know in October or September if there's a problem with you getting your hours. Please let us know what's going on. Your field education liaison will contact your agency just to see how things are going, to see if there are any concerns. We want to support you and the agency in that process. And so this is a learning opportunity because when you graduate, you are considered a generalist social worker. And generalist social worker have the ability to work with individuals, families, communities, to partner with individuals and agencies to bring about desired change. And so the skills that you will obtain during this field placement will aid you. There are 3 degrees that are called professionals when you graduate on a bachelor level: education, nursing, and social work, which means you have experience when you graduate with that sheet of paper. It's very important to be aware of that process. We talked about the field instructors, orientation. Many of you will begin your field placement next week. Hopefully you'll have orientation. In that process, we talked about sexual harassment orientation. You will have something about orientation about employee handbooks, maybe sometimes. And it's very important during orientation, you ask the question about your learning contract, when you're going to do that, and how you're going to do it together in that process. It's very important. And also setting up the date and time that you're going to meet every week, outlining that I will be in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 5. Because if it's not documented and concerns arise, I'm going to ask you, the learning contract take place with you and your field agency instructor. It's very important in that process. And on all your syllabi, there are 9 areas that you will be assessed on. And this is a part of your learning contract too. As you move forward, you're answering emails, interacting with your colleagues, and making ethical decisions. As a professional, will be assessed. How you talk to people, how you respect people, how you engage people, how you do assessments, your paperwork, your ability to work with anyone despite of their ethnicity. They may have a body odor. They may have a different age. All those things will be expected of you to demonstrate respect to them in that process. And so these areas you will be assessed on, and activities will be outlined in your learning contract in these 9 areas. Do these areas look familiar to you all? If they do, put yes. If no, please let me know. These 9 areas, you should be able to document what you're going to do as relate to policy at an agency, as it relates to engaging with an individual or families. If these 9 competency areas look familiar to you, please place yes in the chat or place a no. A yes or a no in the chat. So yes, some people saying yes, some people saying no. Okay. All right. So it's very important that these areas of demonstrating respect, in methods 1, you were able to complete a model called the General Intervention Model. And in that model that you completed, we talked about engagement, which is the interviewing skills, and assessment. And assessment goes over and over and continues from the beginning of the time you meet with them to the end with a client that you're working with in that process. Intervention, it's a plan in place. Termination, follow-up. All those things should have been taught to you all in Methods 1. If not, please let me know, because it's very important that you are able to engage with individuals, families, and communities. It's very important that you can do an assessment or intake as you move forward in that process. So if you need support, please let us know how we can support you in preparation for that. And before we ask any questions, we want to ask, do we have any questions? Okay, you remember now. Okay. Do we have any questions? Any questions? Come off your microphone. Don't put in the chat. Come off your microphone if you have any questions.
I have a question. I just wanted to know the paperwork for the field work. I go to CAPIN website and print it all so that I can hand over to the field supervisor, like the one who's my boss or something.
Say the question again.
And all the paperwork, the one you're talking about, the learning contract and the time slip, I print them from the CAPIN website. Yes,
let's go. They're on the website now. I will email them to you. I'm going to show you a document now of the learning contract. So yes, the learning contract I will show you now. Let me pull it up, and then we'll go through it. So this learning contract that you will have for our time together. Let me go back to this. So the learning contract, this document is several pages. And so this will be placed on your Blackboard, as well as I will email all documents to you all in one file, and we'll have it on website. This is a learning contract that you complete with your agency, field agency instructor. And so the areas that you'll be evaluated on, it will be a 1 through 5, lacking, superficial, or outstanding. And so we talked about the different areas of competency, ethical professional behavior. In the final column, you would write different things you would do to demonstrate that you're going to be professional in that process. So you'll get a midterm grade and a final grade. So all these documents will be placed on your Blackboard, as well as I will email all of the documents to the entire field student body on Tuesday. But this document, which is the field agency, which is the field learning contract, has to be completed, and it's very important that you do so in a timely manner. So this document, as well as the other document, which is your timesheet. So let me pull that document up at this time. So the timesheet is another document that is very important that you complete, and it has to have the signature of your field agency instructor. And so this document that you will have, it will provide opportunity for you can type on it. You can type your name, your date, the agency, the month, and then if you're working on different days, you put in the amount of hours when you went in and it went out. So on a Monday, you'll put in and out, and on Tuesday or Wednesday, you put your time period. At the end of that week one, you'll do a total, this box right here, of how many hours you completed. This should be completed by the student, but it has to be signed by the student and the field agency instructor. If the field agency instructor does not sign it, it does not count. So every month, this document has to be signed by the field agency instructor and provided to your field education liaison, your professor, upload to Blackboard, and you can send to me if you want to in the process. And so I see a question in the chat. The learning contract is due, yes, midterm and the final. So there is a field calendar that I will email to you as well, but your syllabus is what you go by. Your syllabus provides the exact date when learning contract is due. For the midterm, you have three assignments with learning contract. The learning contract is due around September, And the midterm is due in October, and the final evaluation of this learning contract is due in December. And so this learning contract has 3 parts. It has a learning contract part of it. It has the midterm and the final that you're working with. And so, and this, you can see the document here, and you can see how it has midterm, it has final in this process. This document should be saved. You can send the first, when you finish the learning contract, the last column, submit it, that last column, which learning contract, with things you would do in different areas. Submit that, place it on Blackboard, and you want to make sure that you save it so you can have the midterm done as well as the final in that process. Did I answer your question? Any questions about the learning contract, which is the last column? You will sit down with supervisor and they will assess you the midterm and the final on this same document. It's very important that the learning contract, the midterm, and final evaluation are completed. It should be submitted to your field agency instructor 3 times. One time, your learning contract, which is the last column. The second time, your midterm, and the final. Submit it to your field agency, your field education liaison. They have to sign it as well. And we also, around December, when you have all these 3 completed, submit it to the field director. I want the completed version of this. And so 3 parts: learning contract, midterm, final evaluation. They should be completed, and your syllabus has the dates on that process. Any questions about the learning contract? Any questions? Okay. All right. So we have the learning contract, one of the timesheets, and let me see. I have another document that I want to.
So all these are all on one paper.
The learning contract, the midterm, and the final is one document. It's like 8 pages, but the columns, you would do your learning contract is the last column. The midterm is the first column, and the final evaluation is your second column. Okay. It's just one document. It's several pages. Okay.
Yes, because I have, so the person that I'm working under, like that I report to every day, I do the learning contract with them or with the actual supervisor.
The person who has the MSW degree, you would do it with them. But you can be a part of more than one person can be a part of the learning contract. Because like a treatment plan. So your whole team can be a part of the meeting as you go through steps you're going to do. And please make sure that you have ideas. Don't go into the office and say, can we do my learning contract? And you don't have ideas on how you're going to engage policy, how you're going to be a professional. Please have ideas in that process. Any questions about the learning contract? Going once, going twice. All right. I'm going to show you one more document. This document is called the process recording. In the chat, if you could place in the chat that you have heard of a process recording. Have you heard about this? Yes or no? The process recording. Yes or no? 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 Yes? Okay. Yes? Yes? Okay. So this document will be completed. You have to do an interview, meet with a client, and the first column identifies your session. We want you to document what happens at the beginning of a session, a middle, and end. We want you to open the session up by telling them the purpose of it, what's going to happen, and we want you to demonstrate an engagement. So you have to document what happens at the beginning of the conversation, the middle and end, what you're working on. What did you say to the client? What was the client response in that process? The second column, you want to talk about how you felt when the client said this or when you said that. You could say you felt a little anxious when they admitted a need, or you may have felt uncomfortable, or you may have felt that you can support them in that process. So you want to identify some feelings. And before you do the process recording, you want to identify the skills that you will utilize. Like you will be engaging, you will be listening, you'll be asking questions, you ask close-ended questions, you do a summary, but you want to identify the skills. You should sit down and have your questions outlined and the ideas what you want to accomplish, so that when you identify skills, it's not the same skill over and over again. And so you want to use skills like clarification. You want to use skills like self-disclosure when it's appropriate. It's not always appropriate in that process. Can someone give me an example when self-disclosure can be appropriate? Someone give me an example. Come off your mic and let me know when self-disclosure is appropriate.
Hello. So
Yes.
some self-disclosure could be appropriate, specifically when you are working with certain families or certain juveniles. I always say if you're going to use self-disclosure, try to kind of give a indirect example. So maybe using a different name, or instead of saying that it's you, it could be your situation, but say, hey, I know a friend that went through blah, 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 blah. That way you can still give a relation, but not letting them know that, oh, it was me who had this traumatic experience happen to, without being breaking confidentiality.
Thank you. Yeah, someone else. Thank you for that example. Someone else give an example when it's appropriate to use a self-disclosure. I see your hand, Turner.
I guess when trying to relationship build, I know that it can be very difficult sometimes when you're with people and you're new and they have to get comfortable. So it doesn't have to be anything, of course, too in depth, but maybe things that could, that could create some type of bond or relationship that will make them feel, comfortable and safe.
Okay. So you identify the purpose of self-disclosure, where they feel comfortable and safe, where you connect with them, build that rapport in that process. So you always want to make sure, like Ms. Turner said, and our other colleague, Motley, am I saying it correctly? Motley?
Yes, you could call me Miss Shear.
Okay, all right. Yes. You want to make sure that it's about the client. If it's not about the client, we should not use self-disclosure. It's very important that it's about the client. It should be fast and get the focus on the client, not about ourselves in that process. It's a good use of rapport, but you have to be very careful with that. It could backfire if utilized the wrong way. And so all those skills can be outlined in this section. Let me go back in the section of the field of the process recording for field. So you have your third column identifying your skills, and in the fourth column your field agency instructor highlights. They give comments, they give feedback, and so this has to be submitted. This is a major task, so don't give this to your supervisor a day before it's due and say, well, Dr. Jones, Dr. Bolden, Professor Yates, I gave it to my professor, my instructor, but they didn't give it to me. So we'll call them and ask when to get it to you. We ask you to give them 2 weeks ahead of time, because things happen. If you do your part, send an email to your instructor. If you did 2 weeks ahead of time and you remind them a third time, keep reminding them, let us know. You will not be penalized if you do your part. But if you do a day ahead of time, or you do it a week after it's due, you may not get the full credit. So please start early with completing the process recording so that we can assess to see how things are going in your journey. In the bottom of the process recording, you talked about what you did as a role. Were there any interventions completed? And if you have any questions. So it's very important that you utilize that as you go through your journey. The timesheet we went over in that process as well. They have to be uploaded. And keep a copy of all of your paperwork until you graduate with that robe. Keep all your paperwork to make sure that you can move forward in that process. Any additional questions that we have on today? Any questions?
Can because I did got off for work late. Can you send me the recorded Zoom, please, so that I can watch from the beginning?
Yes, we can. Yes, it's not a problem.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Anyone have any questions? So how we just want to make sure that we support you. Yeah, so we can send a recording of the Zoom to I'll upload to YouTube, and I'll send the link to you all by Tuesday. But your paperwork, all the documents will be provided. But I wanted to meet with you all. Some of you all began last week, but you don't have to start officially till next Tuesday. I wanted to let you all know that we support you and that the documentation is critical and is key. And you will have access to it. And it'll be on the website as well, probably by next Thursday. But I will email you the documents on Tuesday. The process recording, the timesheet, the learning contract. It's very important that you look over your documents. Take time looking at your book. The book is entitled A Field Guide for Social Workers Applying Your Generalist Training. It's very important that takes place, that you purchase that book in that process. So your agency will determine if it's a virtual placement or face-to-face. So if you have a concern with your placement being face-to-face, please let me know. Because if your office requires you to be face-to-face, you have to go to face-to-face with the clientele. Because field placement, you have to do face-to-face unless you're virtual placement. I did not determine if a placement is going to be virtual. So if you do have to go into your classrooms, all your classes are face-to-face this semester, and the field placement is face-to-face as well. So if your field placement is required to be face-to-face, you got to be face-to-face. If you don't feel comfortable, you can discuss with me in that process. Okay, so if yours not face-to-face, you're okay. Whatever they decided, that's what you have to follow in that process. So I don't determine if you have to go in. The office will determine that, your placement. So yes. So I apologize for not understanding your question. But your placement will determine if you have to go in or if it's a virtual placement. Any other questions? Any other questions? If no other questions, please know that I am here to support you this semester. Myself and my colleagues, we are here to support you in this journey. Again, it's Dr. Jones. You can email me at gajones@coppin.edu or call me at 410-951-3537 or call the office at 410-951-3535. Our documents will be on this website by next Thursday. In that process, we are here to support you because we believe in you, and whatever we can do, we will do it in that process if we need to be done. Most of the work will be completed at the field sites and field placements, but we're here to support you. We believe in you. And if you email me, give me 48 hours. I will respond before then, but give me these 48 hours to contact you if there's a question that you have, or call me. And if so, if there's no more questions, we have completed the field orientation, on next Wednesday, I will do a similar orientation for the field agencies. So I want to meet with the students first, and then I will meet with your field agency instructors to talk about the process for them. Any questions before we go? So I want to thank you for your time. I want you to enjoy your weekend. Do I want to keep you too long? But are there any questions? Yes, no? You can come off your mic. No questions? No questions? Anyone? No further questions? We want to thank you for your assistance, and we hope each of you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for your time.
You do the same.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.